The gin game sounded really interesting, and I'm pleased to say I really enjoyed this, but it was a lot heavier than I was expecting. This was released in 2003. It's directed by Arvin Brown, written by D.L. Coburn, and we have a cast including Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore. And this is based on the play by Coburn that was originally released in 1976 or premiered in 1976, and the film version, I don't know exactly how it compares, but it focuses on two characters who are staying in a retirement home, and it's basically about them, their lives, their personalities, and their relationship. It starts off with Fonsia having only been there a short time. Weller, Dick Van Dyke's character, hasn't been there tremendously long either, but he's been there a little bit longer, and he invites her to play a game of gin, and they spend a large portion of the film playing this game, interacting with each other. The dialogue between the characters is so brilliant, and it's the kind of film that, for me, based on what I look for, could have become really stale really quickly, because it is basically them talking for the film while playing gin and other things, and that sounds like it could have become really boring if it wasn't handled correctly, but the dialogue is brilliant. The characters are well written, the performances are great, and there is so much emotion in this. As I said, it's a lot heavier than I was expecting. I didn't expect it to be light and fluffy, but it was certainly a lot more dramatic than I'd anticipated, and it works so well. And I watched it before Dick Van Dyke, but honestly, first of all, if I discovered it randomly, I probably would have watched it anyway. But even if the characters were played by actors I'd never heard of, as long as the performances were good, it would have been just as amazing. So I was drawn to it because of Dick Van Dyke, but even if we took Van Dyke out of the equation, everything about this is just so brilliantly done. The camera work's great, and I also really appreciate the fact that it doesn't feel like I'm watching a stage play. There are quite a lot of films that are adapted from stage plays, and they don't really make use of the fact that they're making it as a film, and it just feels like somebody's recorded the play. Obviously, there are times when somebody has literally just recorded the play, but it's really annoying when somebody decides to adapt a stage play for screen and then they basically include no screen elements, and obviously that's not the case here, and I really appreciated that. So I have no complaints about this. It's not the easiest watch, but it is a strong story about these two characters. I enjoyed getting to know them as they get to know each other. And as I said, there is a lot of emotion in this. It gets quite dramatic. It isn't the easiest watch, but it's absolutely worth it. And as I said, yes, obviously Dick Van Dyke, absolutely fantastic. Mary Tyler Moore was brilliant as well. But even if the performances were by actors I'd never heard of, didn't have any emotional connection with, it would have been just as brilliant. Really thoroughly impressed with this. Obviously, I don't know exactly how close it is to the play. If anybody has any thoughts on that, please feel free to share. But I can say that the film is brilliant. It's a very moving story with some really, really strong character writing, brilliant dialogue, fabulous performances. Needless to say, I thought it was pretty impressive, and I'm certainly happy to recommend the Gin Game.